Have you been to the Dilworth neighborhood bar or grill or whatever it's called?
Dude, that's one of my spots. They were the proud sponsor of my kids' Dilworth Little League team for a number of years, which was a really good sponsor. It was a fine place for the coaching staff to go after the games and break down the strategy over some cold adult beverages.
See, I think David Tepper should have either bought a round of drinks for the house. It might have been in the morning, I don't know, or maybe picked up some lunch on the way back to the stadium. Like there was more to be had there, and there's maybe more in the future. Like, take the coaching staff out there, make a show of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, for maybe 29 other owners in the league, that would have been a non-story. But David Tepper has a history, and when you do,
right,
people are going to take notice when you do stop and do something like that, which I do believe that it was good-spirited. I don't think this was anything like the Jacksonville situation. I put out a snarky tweet about him like snatching the hat off the guy, but even that, I mean, it wasn't like he was aggressively doing it, but still, again, when you have a history, you're just under a bigger microscope. Yep. And I'm with you, man. Like, I didn't get all up in arms about it. Other than a couple of tweets, I didn't write about it, but I do think he could have really handled that situation and kind of like I heard you saying while I was on hold, like have some more fun with it, with treating folks to, a post-draft round of beers or two.
Just like apparently he passes it often, so why not, man? Just stop in, be a celeb, open up another button on your Oxford. All right, let's get to the team. I have been all through all the stuff that you have written on The Athletic, and you expressed some of the same concerns that I had going in. The depth chart posed coming out of the draft. I thought it was a great piece. Here was the depth chart going into the draft. Here's the depth chart going out of the draft. And you had obviously nobody at the other cornerback on the other side of J.C. Horn. As you have gone through it, and we have the potential of Stephon Gilmore, where are you at that particular position?
I mean, like you said, I think we're all waiting on Stephon Gilmore. It's been kind of quiet. He may have other offers he's weighing. He played pretty well for Dallas last year, where they had a bunch of injuries at that position. Some of those guys are getting healthy now, so maybe they don't, really need Gilmore back.
Right.
But yeah, listen, I know when we do these mock drafts, we all like to say, I'm going to knock off every box. I'm going to check every box on there. And it's just not how GMs think. And especially, Adam, I think this is a point worth making, that the fact that Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, some of these picks very clearly were made with a year or two down the road. And I think that is them getting some assurances. Now, you never know with David Tepper, but it does feel like Tepper is sort of taking a breath, and he's like, okay, we don't need to go try to sign Teddy Bridgewater and trade for Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? Just
right.
Not try to paper over the holes every offseason, but have a plan, draft guys that you think can help you in the long run. Some of them might help you right away. I think they will.
Yeah.
But a couple of them feel more like down the road, and that's okay if David Tepper can stay patient.
Joe Person from The Athletic at Joseph Person on Twitter. I thought going into the draft, they could have drafted wide receivers with their first two picks. I wouldn't have complained about it because it was such a glaring need, and you really needed to give Bryce Young some options. The running back, whatever. I'm not, to me, it's right. I don't know about the value of trading up to get a running back, but they got the best running back, consensus, best running back in the board. How much better do they expect him to be than Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders?
That was an interesting one because I did really like the first move at 39 where they traded back and got that they got that second round pick for next year that went away with the Bryce Young deal last year. They got that back. That was smart.
Yep.
And frankly, the Rams overpaid
by a lot.
But then you didn't give it away, but you did sort of take away a little of that glory by trading up for this Jonathan Brooks. And listen, when he's healthy, he only had 1 year as a starter. He was behind two really good backs at Texas. But I don't know. That's one of the ones I was talking about. Like, I know they're saying he's going to be ready for camp, and he's this ACL surgery, which he just had in November. Like, this was not like last August.
Right.
I just think that feels maybe he's good to go, and he is your week one starter, and he's helping you right from the jump. But maybe that's a guy that you're more looking at down the road, and I don't know. I didn't view it as a big need, but when you looked at their pre-draft visits, like they brought the Gibson kid from Florida State for a top 30 visit. They brought in Brooks. Those are the top two running backs on the board.
Right.
So it was very clear to me that Dave Canales, we're all talking about tight ends and wide receivers, which they needed. But I think Dave Canales was like, I want a running back too. And he got one. And, we shall see.
Somebody who can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's very important. It just never materialized for Bryce last year to have a valuable safety valve. Everything, it was either Adam Thielen or bust. Right. I think you and I texted the initial move to trade into round one wasn't so much about guaranteeing them Xavier Legette, but it was about getting the fifth-year option as much as anything. They didn't give up a ton to move up one spot. Frankly, I would have liked the leverage of having the first pick in round two to seeing if you could leverage that into a lot more, but I get what they did. How are you with Legette, the player, and then are you enjoying the Legette communication show?
Yeah, he's something. Two quick stories, just and both answer each of those questions. I have a daughter at South Carolina, so we had the whole crew at the Week 0 game against the Tar Heels in Charlotte last September, Labor Day weekend. And we ended up behind the South Carolina bench, kind of just by happenstance. And I didn't know much about Xavier Legette. And I'd nudge my 16-year-old son, and I'm like, look at the monster wearing number 17 and playing wide receiver. And we couldn't take our eyes off him that day. Like, he looked like a defensive end running past North Carolina defensive backs, catching the ball at the high point,
right? And
had a really good game. The Gamecocks lost, but he had 9 catches and almost 200 yards, and so I kind of kept my eye on him a little bit the rest of the season. So then, fast forward to January, they hire Dan Morgan, Dave Canales. I kind of fly last minute down at the Senior Bowl, hoping to get some time with those guys. Well, I got some time with Xavier Legette after one of the practices. And I was just like, oh, my gosh, this is not how I expected. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was just such a great country, just natural accent. And then at the press conference last week, there were some things I was not exactly sure what he was saying, but he was saying them in such a friendly, affable manner that I was like, man, you do you. This is great. And
he's super happy,
matters, though, right, Adam? Not like we won't be if he's not good next fall. Like, you're not going to be asking me about his accent. This is a great story, and it's a fun story, but they need him to produce. Obviously, they think he will. They had a first round grade on him. A lot of teams, a lot of analysts weren't as crazy about Legette as Dan Morgan was, but again, you never know. They picked number 1 last year, and we're in the draft, and we're still not sure if that's the guy. So I don't know if the 32 guy is going to be the pick either.
Yeah, This was about the area where Legette was going to go, right? It was going to be late first, early second round, same place that Ladd McConkey was going to go, same place where Buffalo took Keon Coleman. I think the difference is that Legette is just faster. I mean, he's running what was the time of the combine? 4.39.
4.39.
I mean, yeah, that's better than Keon Coleman ran like a 4.6. Now he plays faster and he plays bigger. Coleman does, but I totally get the infatuation with the kid from South Carolina. Obviously, you get the tie to a local school, which doesn't hurt because it does draw some fans in. But I think they took the best player, which is probably why they traded up for Jonathan Brooks, because they probably had him given a first round grade, and they thought. Hey. Why not get him now?
Funny thing, I don't want to interrupt you.
That's fine.
They now have 4 Gamecocks on the roster, and some of them are really good players, like right. Clowney, DJ Wanham, J.C. Horn, and now Legette. And what's funny is, like, as you know, that's a school that hasn't had a real great football history. They still have yet to draft a Clemson player in 28 years of having this, 29 years of having this franchise. So anyway, just a quick aside.
With Jeremiah Trotter Jr. on the board when they I was surprised they didn't take, if they were going to take the linebacker, I was kind of surprised they didn't take Peyton Wilson, who was available when they took the kid from, was it Mississippi State or Washington State? I think Washington State. Whatever. Oh, Kentucky.
The linebacker was from Kentucky. But you took 2 other defensive players from those schools you mentioned.
Yeah, would have liked to see Peyton Wilson, but I get injury history, all that. They determined he didn't have an ACL. Apparently, you don't need an ACL. I watched him play for 2 years. He was a terror for 2 years. Joe Person, Stephon Gilmore, also from South Carolina. We should throw that in.
That's right.
Would you trust? We'll close on this. Would you trust? Actually, I have one more thing after that. Would you trust a 34-year-old cornerback, because he'll be 34 in September, opposite J.C. Horn, who we have our own trust issues with him staying healthy and available?
It's a great question, because I do think, and I'm raising my hand, myself included, have sort of just made this Gilmore thing seem like a slam dunk fait accompli. And he still played well at an older age.
Yep.
But that can go away in a hurry. I'm thinking of players like Josh Norman, and you get to a certain point in your 30s, and it is that drop off is very swift and steep. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they have somebody else out there. Maybe Dan Morgan really is convicted on Dane Jackson, whom they signed out of Buffalo and whom he famously banged the table for when he was the Bills' assistant general manager, to take Dane Jackson in the 7th round in Buffalo. So, I mean, right now, if they rolled the ball out today, he's the starter opposite J.C. Horn. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Do we trust a 34-year-old? For one seat, if it's a short-term deal, I probably would, just because of Gilmore's track record.
All right, and final thing. Do you want another wide receiver or 2?
Or 3. Keep them coming. I did like the JT Sanders tight end pickup in the start of round 4. I thought that was smart. For whatever it's worth, all 3 of my mocks, I liked that a tight end at 101, and I had them grabbing him in at least 1 or 2 of those mocks. But at any rate, I don't know. I mean, there's only so many holes to fill.
You can't fill them all.
My point, you can only fill so many in one off season. There's guys, that are coming available, and will, as camps get underway and guys get cut. And so, I'd definitely keep the door open there, because just like you asked me about Stephon Gilmore at 34, that's the age Adam Thielen's going to be on week 1. So I think they should definitely continue to be aggressive, because this is a big year. Like, they have to have enough around Bryce to where at the end of the year they can say, okay, see, he had the weapons and he was really good like we thought. Or, whoa, we spent a lot of money on offensive guards and we improved the weapons and it still was choppy. do we really have our quarterback? They have to be answering that question at the end of year 2.
Joe Person from The Athletic, at Joseph Person on Twitter. My friend, I appreciate your time. I will talk to you soon.
Hey, have a great rest of the week and weekend.
You too. See you soon.